You're tuned in to the Brand Ambassador Select Podcast.
I'm your host, Lenore, and one of my favorite parts about the Brand Ambassador Select Podcast is being introduced to new authors because everyone really has their own story and unique style. So at the age of 19, Shoilee Banerjee is already a published author. Her debut book, Something, is a coming-of-age story that follows an aspiring singer through her high school experiences of happiness, sadness, and really everything in between. So the theme is actually mental health in minority populations. So Shoilee currently studies public health at a college in Massachusetts and is joining us today to share her journey as a young author and activist. Shoilee Banerjee, welcome to today's show.
Thank you so much for having me, Lenore. I appreciate this opportunity to be able to talk about my book and what it's about.
So I have to ask, your novel, Something, you wrote that you started it at the age of 14. What inspired you to write a book about mental health at such a young age?
Yeah, well, I've always loved writing, and it's always been one of my greatest passions. I have written poems, stories ever since I was really young. I would participate in poetry competitions and writing competitions. And I actually wrote my first book when I was 9 years old. It was about a dragon and his adventures. And no, it wasn't the best, but we're here for the character development. And I continued my writing throughout my life until I reached high school. And that's when things really started to shift in the culture and environment. There was more stress and pressure to be perfect all the time. And some of my friends were dealing with mental health issues, like they were having problems at home, or they were having a tough time with school and performance. And so I thought I could do what I knew best, which was writing, and I could bring light to the issue. And I decided to write a book about all of these happenings and based on people's experiences with mental health.
I do have to ask, your friends knew that you were writing this book, obviously. Were they okay with you kind of grabbing some inspiration from their lives?
I would say so. It wasn't particularly specific to any of my friends, but the issues that they dealt with, I was able to apply. Like, some of my friends were really, really anxious about doing well in school and whatnot. And I said, hey, I can use that in my book because that is a really relevant and prevalent problem in people our age. So it isn't specifically based on any of my friends' lives or my life or anything like that, but the problems are very real problems that people my age do deal with.
I don't even think it's just your age, too. I think even in college, as you're now in college, not in high school anymore, especially just getting yourself into the whole workforce and becoming an adult, as we all, have to learn to do, is a lot harder than we think.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I'm in college. You definitely are right. And it's never been more relevant to me, too, because every test I get, every grade I get, it dictates my future. And that can cause a lot of stress. And I think that's why it's so important to be able to write about these things, because it's this elephant in the room in a black box. Everyone goes through it, or at least most people do at some point. But there isn't enough talk about it and the effect it has on people.
What was the hardest part for you specifically writing your novel? Was it getting the stories together? Was it spelling? Was it grammar? Lay it all down.
I would say it was getting the scene that's in my head onto paper in a way that I was satisfied with it. And this is a problem that many writers face, and it makes sense because you imagine this great, vivid scene in your head, and you think, how do I make this an exceptional scene in the form of words? And that is the hard part. You have to be able to convey exactly what's in your head on paper. And yeah, I've had trouble with grammar and thought development, but that is easier to fix, I would say. I would argue that the scene that's in your head coming out perfectly is what was hardest for me.
So the definition of success varies from person to person. What does literary success mean to you?
I would say success to me means I produce a product, or in this case, a manuscript, that I am proud of and that others are proud of too. I think that is why I wrote the book anyway. I wanted it to have an impact on others, of course, and I also wanted to be impressed with my own writing abilities, I would say, because I do love writing. I always have. So I want to be able to produce something that I can look at and be, hey, wow, I wrote this, and at such a young age too. And since I'm writing about such a heavy and important topic, it means the world to me when people tell me that my book has made an impact on them. In fact, a few people have messaged me saying my book is so relatable, and it really got them thinking about their mental health. And that is, I can't even say how much that means to me. That leaves me speechless.
No better feeling than when you realize I did something to help somebody. And then, wow, like I actually helped somebody. That's cool.
Yeah, exactly.
So you did spend almost 4 or 5 years working on this book, and now it's done, so yay. But I have to ask, is there another book? Is there something else that you're working on that we can know about?
I haven't officially started any new work, but I am exploring other types of writing, like poetry and more like short stories that I usually haven't dived into before. And I think that while I haven't had any former experience in it really, I think that it will be worth it because poetry has a lot to offer, and I love reading other people's poetry and other literature that is great and inspiring as well.
So when you said poetry, right, you want to know where my mind went to? Okay, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, if she writes all this good poetry, maybe that poetry can be turned into music one day. Because I feel like that's like the lyrics behind every song ever is just poetry with sound. Well, obviously sound because you're talking, but like, guitar sound, all the above.
Exactly.
So that's actually really cool. So I'm going to just continue following your life to maybe see what you do next. I hope you're okay with that.
Yeah, no, for sure. For sure.
And if you could, go back in time, back to the time that you were 14 when you just started writing the book, would you tell yourself, your younger self, anything?
I would say to just keep writing, even if that means editing, revising, brainstorming, anything. Just keep writing because that's how you build the confidence to allow people to see your work. And that wasn't the case in my 14-year-old self. I was too insecure for anyone to see my work, and I was nervous about what they would think. And by writing, you get more confident in your skills and your abilities. And I really think that helps you become a better writer because, one, it improves your ability to write in grammatically correct sentences and all of that, and you learn so much. But yeah, it also helps your ability to handle to take criticism and constructive criticism and critiques in general, yeah.
Because not everybody's going to love you. Like, I hate to say that, but it's true. You're not going to please everybody on this face of the earth. And that's something that we have to, be okay with.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's interesting that you bring that up because that's actually something that my main character struggles with a lot. It's this burden of trying to be perfect all the time and getting everyone to like her. And that is really hard. You have to be able to have confidence in yourself and trust yourself and invest in yourself. So yeah.
And I would say that would be the advice you'd give to other teens right now who are currently struggling with mental health?
Yeah, I would say that's a huge part of it. I would say that, first of all, it's okay to not be okay. And what does that mean? That means that you don't have to be perfect all the time. You don't have to be always happy. The whole point of the human experience is that we experience emotion, and we are human beings and not robots. And we should be able to normalize that we have other feelings like sadness and anxieties and whatnot. But you should know when something isn't like you, when something is off. And if you are feeling sad for a long time, I think you should really know when to seek help, and that there's no shame in it. And I think that all humans do experience these emotions, and it's normal that we do. But yeah, when you notice that something is off with yourself, please do seek help.
You know, it's funny that you said it's okay to not be okay, because the constant battle, I think I've had this with my parents. So if like my parents are listening to this, like whatever. But it was well, you're always so happy and today you're just so sad or whatever. Like, what's wrong? I was like, sometimes there's actually nothing wrong. Sometimes I don't need to be this energetic ball of energy, all the time. It's okay to just sit back, relax, and just say, I'm okay with just being steady right now. Like, that's just it. And it's hard sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. And that's definitely it. People do notice sometimes when you're not as happy as you usually are, but maybe something isn't wrong. Maybe something is just, you shouldn't just be expected to be happy all the time.
Exactly. So to learn more about Shoilee and to purchase her book, Something, you can head to ShoileeBanerjee.com. That's SHOILEE Banerjee, BANERJEE.com. You can follow her on Insta too. It's at Shoilee_. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button to always stay up to date on the latest Brand Ambassador Selects podcast. Shoilee, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Lenore.
We'll have to chat soon, and I hope school's going to go well for you and your future as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I'm your host, Lenore, and see you next time for another episode of the Brand Ambassador Select podcast.